And ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers.
And I'm Jay Reef.
And today, Jay, we have the distinct pleasure of talking about arguably it's definitely one of the great Twilight Zones of all time. I'm just trying to find where I ranked it when I did it.
The first time. Oh. I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, there we go. Oh, God.
And we're back. I'll just start again and then clip it. Here we go.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers.
I'm Jay Reef.
And today we're talking about one of the great Twilight Zone episodes of all time, the incredible The After Hours. Would you say that this is one of the it's definitely one of the most iconic within Twilight Zone fandoms, but do you think it's gone beyond that and is actually one of the ones that people know by concept, by plot?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how I knew it, because this was I'd say the very first episode I'd ever seen. Because this was my third time watching it.
Well, it just still works.
Yeah.
I go back to that Halloween night or whenever it was, and we did the party, and then everybody came over and watched a load of Twilight Zones, and a room of people still when she opens the elevator and the black-haired woman's there. I mean, it just still works very, very well. The After Hours, very, 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 very scary episode, very, very unsettling episode, and then takes this shift into rather touching, where the twist is not played for terror or for a shock, really. It's played for it becomes a concept on life itself. and your place in the world. Yeah. Which you don't exactly think it could go.
As it would.
Naturally. Directed by Douglas Hayes. You can make the argument, arguably the best Twilight Zone director. This, Eye of the Beholder, The Invaders. Mark Scott Zickery likes to point to him as the one who would take on the hard concepts. So you look at the visual trickery of Eye of the Beholder, or you look at the pure visuals of The Invaders, or in this case, you look at the simple way of making mannequins scary, when in oh so many ways they're not, unless you are scared by them. Jay, were you a child who was afraid of mannequins?
No, not really. I mean, I kind of get why you would be.
But we're slightly different in age, and I remember when I was a kid, obviously the Christopher Eccleston, the first.
I was about to bring that up as well.
The Automots or something.
I think it's the Autons, or
that sounds right. Mannequins being creepy have a long lineage, or at least interesting. So there is a short story by John Collier called Evening Primrose, which I know best because it got adapted bizarrely into a 45-minute musical with songs by Stephen Sondheim, starring Anthony Perkins and Charmaine Carr. So I know that very well. And as I talked about on the Stephen Sondheim Evening Primrose episode, it's basically The After Hours. I mean, it's obviously slightly different. That is a story about a man who wants to hide away from the world, and he's going to, get away from the world and write in the wee small hours in a department store, and finds that the mannequins at night, there is this evening society. And very, tragic ending where they're trying to escape and they fail and become mannequins themselves. Which underneath all of that is a great Stevie Sondheim duet, "Take Me to the World." Great track. This comes written by Serling and is reportedly indebted. There is no official attribution to adaptation when it comes to Evening Primrose, but Serling knew of John Collier, liked his work, presumably knew of Evening Primrose. So there must be some sort of alignment. I do think he makes his own twist on it, and it's enough to warrant this being an original concept by Serling. But you can't deny the elements of there. On a third time, Jay, all the better for it, or did cracks start to show?
No, it was really good. I was just gripped the entire time. It was funny because it's been so many years since I last watched it that I kind of remembered it differently to how it was, but no, it was still great.
Did you forget the bizarre 5-minute comedic masterpiece that is Mr. Armbruster?
What, that felt like a scene from fucking Twin Peaks season 3?
It felt like something completely bizarre. Much like Twin Peaks series 3, you've got the scariest shit ever, and then suddenly the wackiest.
And then the next scene is seen as Jim Belushi talking to Harry, talking to his brother.
Yeah, the After Hours. I wrote this for the blog many years ago. This iconic episode, based around the concept of living mannequins, finds Anne Francis as Marcia White, a woman desperately confused but still compelled to return to a department store to purchase a single gold thimble. Francis gives us the bewilderment needed, but so many times also gives us a touch of a woman with her head firmly on her shoulders, in many scenes willing herself to rationalize the completely unrationable. This episode reuses music from the earlier Where Is Everybody? And in many ways, it shares a lot more than the episode than a few leitmotifs, with a second act all but silent sequence with Anne wandering around the empty department store, not unlike in the slightest the man caught in that episode. Ultimately, this has gained a reputation as one of the creepier episodes of the show, but for me, it again more so in the haunting and touching variety, with the scares hitting brilliantly, but the camera and plot remaining to note what happens after those scares, those human moments, those painfully silent moments, where the deafening silence is all but enough to drive any person mad. Simply tremendous work. It's another great Twilight Zone. The twist comes 10 minutes or so. No, not really, about 7 minutes before the ending. And we're left to sit in the melancholy of the situation. Going to throw this in now. There was a 1986 remake of the episode when they did the new Twilight Zone, and they changed a few things. It's a mother or so looking for a Cabbage Patch Kid for her daughter. There are a few good scares added in. She walks through a hallway with spare mannequins, and she finds a bin full of heads, and they have some actors peeking through the other heads. There's a few good effects, and they remove everything that we're going to say works well about the final 20 minutes, final 5 minutes of this episode. Make it pure horror, pure suspense, and she's not accepting of wanting to be a mannequin. She continues to run away, and it becomes a chase. There are some great effects in this, like her legs freeze up, and it's quite scary, and then her hands, and her final pose is this pose of terror. Works well to some extent. I personally prefer. What do you come to Twilight Zone for? I come to the Twilight Zone for lengthy Rod Serling monologues about the meaning of life and our place in it. So, of course, I prefer this version.
Also, just thinking I think there's still a logic here that they turn back into mannequins that would be in a shop. Whereas if there was a mannequin in a shop that looked like it was dying, I would probably be very unsettled, even more.
True. So, let's touch on the rules a little bit. So, do they all wake up at night and have 24 hours at night to wander around? Because I could. Even if it's a huge department store, eventually it will feel like a prison, obviously, and it's not as good as the actual real world for a month. But
I don't know. I don't know. Like, also, do they move from shop to shop? Like, or are they there for
True.
ages?
Is it like Toy Story? Because obviously
Yeah.
in the day, what if a mannequin gets put in the bin or moved by a human?
Yeah, or like gets something chopped off.
Yeah. I always remember we were on a family day trip and we had a young girl in the party, and her mum went, go on, Frankie, take a picture with holding the man's hand. Takes the picture, walks away from the mannequin holding the hand and starts screaming, crying. So yeah,
Plus, there are very strange people who do strange things with mannequins. Yeah.
Yes. To say the least.
Was it a mannequin in Dharma? I can't remember.
Probably. Most things were. Was there a mannequin in the movie Mannequin with Kim Cattrall? Where, I mean, there is a whole movie where a man falls in love with a mannequin.
That was on the recommended on Amazon after I finished the episode.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, that's just AI to the max. You know, you enjoyed this cerebral, creepy, haunting 1963 episode of television. Do you want to watch Kim Cattrall in an 80s romantic comedy where a man falls in love with a mannequin who comes to life? And
obviously,
that's where the song "Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now" that comes from that film. Yeah.
Yeah, because even if you're a mannequin, you can still have love.
You want to get down. We open with Anne Francis arriving, and why that would be the mezzanine, and very surely we end up on this higher level, this ninth floor, which is actually the set is actually just a redress of the busy set with all of the apartments in. So nice use of set there, and Serling comes in. Express elevator to the ninth floor of the department store, carrying Miss Marcia White and a most prosaic, ordinary, run-of-the-mill errand. And then we actually interrupt the narration, and she gets off, and it's empty. There must be some mistake. There's nothing here. And the elevator man closes the door behind her. Because Miss Marcia White on the ninth floor specialities department looking for a gold thimble. The odds are that you won't find it. But there are even better odds that you'll find something else, because this isn't just a department store. This happens to be the Twilight Zone. And we immediately come face to face with Elizabeth Allen as the nameless saleswoman. And they have a sort of particular exchange and mention of this gold thimble. And it ends with the classic, horror. That's odd. What's odd, Marcia? Leading, of course, to, wait, you said my name. How did you say my name? And it's innocuous enough to let it slide. And I love on a second watch, on a third watch, because again, on a first watch, all the weird shit that people say can just be passed off as weird, spooky shit. But on a second watch, Miss White, are you happy? Well, forgive me, but that's none of your business. And you go, oh, really? It's none of my business. And again, first watch, why is this saleswoman so interested? Yeah, Marcia, get out of there. On a third watch or a second watch, you're like, this poor woman's, I've been delayed a day already.
Yeah. Poor her. Yeah, she's justified.
Yeah. And then some great subtle work here. I always called him the captain, but the elevator man, whatever he is, the boatsman. When he gets in, and he's obviously immediately understanding that Marcia's not clicked yet. And did you find what you were looking for? And no, I've had this code for him, blah blah blah. And he's practically rolling his eyes, and it's just such subtle, great work from John Conwell, and so subtle of she's not realized yet. Shit, what, we're gonna have to do something else? Is this gonna take a few days?
You're gonna have to do an intervention.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something. And then we get Mr. Armbruster. And I've put here that Mr. Armbruster for 20 minutes, I think the term in the drag community is queening out. He is the most flamboyant, outrageous salesman. Well, Mr. Sloan, I took great pleasure in it.
I loved it.
It's brilliant.
The hell?
I trust to inform this lady that we have no 9th floor. I mean, his absolute, the excitement on his face for your receipt. Oh, she didn't give me a receipt. Wow, yeah. I mean, there are multiple times where he more or less looks straight down the camera and winks. And do you think we're a bit slow into the reveal, or do you think? I mean, this is an episode that really kicks into its second gear after the ad break.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm trying. It's hard for me to remember, like, when I didn't know the twist, because obviously it was that long ago that I watched it for the first time.
It is one of those twists where I say this. I'm trying to figure out how to say this, because normally I say this as a criticism of a twist, but it's a twist where, in the basis of reality or anything like that, or the basis of, you know, let's just call it pop culture, comes completely out of nowhere. There's nowhere that you'd think, oh, she's a living mannequin.
Yeah.
You might have the notion of horror that all the mannequins are real and are alive. I mean, that is the end of the ad break, you know, the pointing to the saleswoman, and then Douglas Hayes does a little bit of camera trickery because he uses the actress from behind, then he uses the mannequin, and just some great cross-cutting. He does the same
I
when
love the mannequin arm.
Oh, brilliant.
Moving. That was great.
And some lovely little subtle stuff. And to get that zoom crack into when Frances just says, and she passes out. And, you know, what I'd like to give her is a one-way ticket bus to anywhere west of Cleveland, Chicago, preferably Honolulu. And then she wakes up. And we get a believable enough, here we are, Nancy Rennick, Miss Keevers. We get a believable enough plotting that Miss Keevers, you know, forgets about her in the other room. She's been called away. She's busy. And we get what we need, which is Marcia alone in the department store at night. And then she wakes up. Marcia. And again, on the surface, not scary at all. But all of those slow zoom ins, Marcia. And then, like what you said, that first hand movement. And it's so small, so tiny, so, you know, so something and nothing. You know, again, you can see a version of it, like, well, we got it in the 1986 remake of it, where it's full horror and all that sort of thing. But no, just and just the tiniest little movement. And then I do enjoy the one angry mannequin in that Marcia vocal auditory montage who goes, "Climb off it, dear." You know, it's like, come on, get a grip.
Yeah.
And then we get the rushing to the elevator and that great jump scare of the mannequin. And then it's not necessarily a camera trick, but the panning back to Anne Francis, and then Elizabeth Allen walking in to the frame as the saleswoman, and just that great.
Yeah.
It's called a Texas switch. Well, it's not exactly a Texas switch this time around, but anyway, just a great movement. And then, as Matt Scott Zickery, the Twilight Zone companion, said, Shirley makes this excellent choice. We move from horror to melancholy to sadness. There is a version of this story. I mean, I watched it, the 1986 version. There is a version of this episode that stays with the horror. But no, we get Marcia. I'm a mannequin. That's what I am. I'm a mannequin. It was my turn your turn to leave us for a month. Becoming much clearer now, isn't it? You left us for a month and you lived with the outsiders. But you were due back yesterday and you didn't show up. You know, Marcia, that's very selfish, my dear. All of us wait our turn and we simply do not overstay it. Now it was my turn starting last night. I'm one day delayed already. And then, again, incredibly... in the, you know, the great meme of, you know, Angelo Badalamenti writing some music and the piano's on fire, and it's like, it doesn't need to go this hard, but, like, you know, when you're on the outside, everything seems so normal, as if what, Marcia? As if we're like the others, like the outsiders, like the real people. Depending on whatever stage of life you're in, you can attribute that to something. And does this mean that this? I presume poor Elizabeth Allen just gets her 30 days, but delayed by delay. They let her still have 30. Or maybe they have a really tight schedule and she now has to have 29.
Maybe. Yeah. That would be extra sucky.
Also, once a month. What about the people who get 29 days instead of 31?
Exactly. Or 28.
Is there 28 days? I've never known the month. I've never known that little poem.
In February.
Oh, very good. And then that again, talk about melancholy. Great, where the melancholy of the writing meets the melancholy of the direction by Hayes. That one take as we watch Elizabeth Allen leave and everybody waves at the same time. And then Marcia just stands and remains alone with the elevator man, with the captain. And what does he say? Did you enjoy yourself, Marcia? Was it fun? Ever so much fun. Ever so much fun. And by that time, her hands are already in position and she's ready to rock. And it washes over her. And we then end on a comedic beat, which I don't know. I don't know if is completely necessary after the incredibly emotional past, 5 minutes we've had, to then end on Mr. Armbruster looking right into camera going, but it works to some extent. And then we get Lord Marcia White, your normal and natural state, a wooden lady with a painted face, who 1 month out of the year takes on the characteristics of someone as normal and as flesh and blood as you and I. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Just how normal are we? Just who are the people we nod our hellos to as we pass on the street? A rather good question to ask, particularly in the Twilight Zone.
They live.
They live, yeah, just doing any number of things. Anne Francis had her own sort of centuries-old come to realization moment when she was having her face mask done for the prop, which was again done by makeup artist William J. Tuttle, who did the great work for the Invaders, did the great work for Eye of the Beholder. And she said that it was called a death mask. And she said that she had this realization that this had been going on for centuries, not just at MGM. And she just a wonderful little quote. She said, "Heavens to Betsy, they did this to King Tut." So,
that's very cute.
I just love old-fashioned shit like that.
Sign
me up.
Yes, me too.
I think it's going to rank, incredibly high. But I'm going to send you over the. Right, I'm sending you over the top whatever we're currently on. It's just sending as we speak. Currently, our top 10 stands as this: Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, To Serve Man, The Long Morrow, Time Enough at Last, Nothing in the Dark, The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, Will the Royal Marshal Please Stand Up, On Thursday We Leave for Home, It's a Good Life, and Walking Distance. I think I'm happy for this to crack the top 5. I don't know about you.
Too. Me
so,
too.
what's your initial gut reaction?
1 second. This is where my memory with the titles is failing.
We've got The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street with the paranoia on the street that leads to everybody dying. We've got Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up in the diner. On Thursday We'll Leave for Home is the wonderful Brooks Hatland from Shawshank coming to realize that he's no longer a captain on a small island. And of course, it's a good episode. Well, if we move It's a Good Life, then young Bill Mooney will get very angry.
He will.
So I think we maybe keep that at 2.
A 3.
I think I'm happy with it at 3. I don't want On Thursday We'll Leave for Home to move much more down because that.
Oh yeah.
But yes, I'm very happy for it at 3. So I'm now looking. I'm going to just quickly look at our schedule because I don't know. I'm looking now, and I don't think we're going to have something crack the top. I've spaced the ones out quite well, in my opinion, but I don't think we're going to have something cracking the top 10 in quite a while now, to be honest with you. We've got some great episodes coming up that are going to crack the top 20, I believe. but nothing cracking the top 10 in some time. Maybe I was pessimistic and didn't think we'd get to the full 50. So I put all the best ones in early. But no, that's good. Any final thoughts, Jay, on the wonderful episode, The After Hours?
Just fantastic. Fantastic episode. Love it. I love it, love it, love it.
It's great stuff. Are you more, well, we'll end on this note, because although this episode blends a few different things, would you say that you're more of a horror Twilight Zone guy, a sci-fi Twilight Zone guy, or human drama Twilight Zone guy?
Probably human drama, to be honest.
I think this, and I mean, this is why Walking Distance remains our number one. And
yeah, exactly.
You know, on Thursday we leave for home, which is sci-fi to an extent, but is mainly about a man, a leader crumbling.
Well, speaking of sci-fi, I watched the third Naked Gun a few weeks ago.
Brilliant!
And there's the bit wow. where they go, it's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook with Hart Buckner. No, is that Hart Buckner? Yeah, it is. I think it
is it.
Or am I confusing people? All I know is that what was his name? Robert something. I think he's Hart Buckner's dad. Am I Hart Buck? Yes, or have I made this up?
It's Lloyd Buckner.
Lloyd.
Yeah.
Lloyd Buckner, and then his son is no, I've still got a few things upside, including his son Hart Buckner, who is most famously Ellis from Die Hard, and I believe is best friends with Warren Beatty. I don't know how to get confirmation on that, but I believe so. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
Also, it was the second.
Oh, in the. I mean, they're all good.
Yeah,
they are very, very. I genuinely, I stand by. They're a bit. I mean, yes, Naked Gun is still the best one, but I really do think 2 and 3 are vastly underrated.
Yeah.
I don't think it helps that 3 came out within a month of the murder. But yeah, it was very, very close.
God.
Didn't help. But The After Hours is brilliant. And I don't have to hand what our next episode is, so we will leave everybody in, I mean, immeasurable suspense. Best wishes, Jake. Best wishes.
You too.